Did you know that even the most renowned atheist scientists have admitted there's something in the human brain that seems hardwired to seek the divine? Tonight, you're going to discover why every culture, every civilization, and perhaps even your own soul has this mysterious pull towards something greater than ourselves. What you're about to learn might completely change how you see your own spiritual journey. Every single human being who has ever walked this earth has experienced it. That inexplicable feeling that there's something more beyond what we can see, touch, or measure. From the ancient caves of our earliest ancestors to the most advanced laboratories of today, one thing remains constant: humanity's relentless search for the divine. But here's what's fascinating, and what most people don't know. Modern neuroscience has actually identified specific structures in our brains that seem designed for spiritual experience. Researchers call it the God spot, and it exists in every human being, regardless of their religious background or beliefs. Tonight, I'm going to share with you 7 profound reasons why your soul, yes, your soul, craves this divine connection. These aren't just philosophical ideas or religious concepts. These are deeply rooted truths that span across every culture, every faith tradition, and every scientific discovery about human consciousness. If you've ever felt that emptiness that success can't fill, if you've ever looked up at the stars and felt something stirring inside you, if you've ever wondered why humans are the only species that builds temples and cathedrals and mosques, then you're about to understand why. And I want you to pay close attention, because by the end of this video, you'll not only understand these 7 reasons, but you'll also discover which one resonates most deeply with your own spiritual journey. Let's start with something that will blow your mind. Dr. Dean Hamer, a molecular biologist at the National Institutes of Health, discovered what he calls the God gene, a specific gene that appears to be linked to spiritual experience and the search for meaning. But here's what's even more remarkable. Anthropologists have found that in every single human culture that has ever existed, from isolated tribes in the Amazon to ancient civilizations in Mesopotamia, humans have always created meaning through connection with something greater than themselves. Think about this for a moment. Why would evolution hardwire us to seek something that supposedly doesn't exist? Why would natural selection preserve a trait that makes us look beyond the material world for answers? The answer is profound, because meaning isn't just a luxury for humans, it's a survival necessity. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and renowned psychiatrist, spent years studying this phenomenon. He discovered that humans can endure almost any suffering as long as they can find meaning in it. But without meaning, even the most comfortable life becomes unbearable. And here's the key insight. The deepest, most sustainable meaning that humans have ever discovered comes from understanding their connection to the divine. When you believe that your life has a sacred purpose, that you're part of something infinitely greater than yourself, everything changes. Your struggles become meaningful. Your joys become sacred. Your very existence becomes a celebration of something magnificent. This isn't wishful thinking. This is how the human soul is designed to function. We are meaning-making creatures, and the most powerful meaning we can make is understanding ourselves as beloved creations of the divine. Here's something that every therapist, counselor, and healer knows. At the core of every human being is a desperate need to be loved unconditionally. Not for what we achieve, not for how we perform, not for what we can give to others, but for who we are at our deepest essence. But here's the problem. No human being can provide this perfectly. Parents try, but they're flawed. Partners try, but they have their own needs. Friends try, but relationships change. Even the most loving human relationships come with conditions, expectations, and limitations. This creates what psychologists call the love deficit, a deep sense that we're never quite enough, never quite worthy of the love we desperately crave. And this is where the divine connection becomes essential. Every major spiritual tradition speaks of a love that is infinite, unconditional, and eternally available. This isn't just a beautiful idea. It's addressing a fundamental human need that nothing else can fulfill. When you experience even a glimpse of divine love, that sense of being completely known, completely accepted, completely cherished exactly as you are, it transforms everything. The anxious striving stops. The constant need for approval diminishes. The fear of rejection loses its power. Dr. Timothy Keller, in his research on human psychology and spirituality, found that people who experience a genuine sense of divine love show measurably lower levels of anxiety, depression, and what he calls approval addiction. Think about the most peaceful, content people you know. I guarantee you, they've found a way to tap into this sense of unconditional acceptance that transcends human relationships. Your soul craves this divine love because it's the only love that can truly heal the deepest wounds of the human heart. It's the only love that says, you are precious, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. Here's something that haunts every thinking person: the problem of injustice. Why do innocent people suffer? Why do evil people sometimes prosper? Why does the universe seem so often unfair? This isn't just an intellectual puzzle. It's a soul-deep anguish that every human being experiences. We have an innate sense that things should be fair, that good should be rewarded and evil should be punished, that suffering should have meaning and purpose. But look around the world. Look at history. Look at the news. The universe, from a purely material perspective, appears fundamentally unjust. This creates what philosophers call the justice gap, the distance between how things are and how we know they should be. And here's what's remarkable. This sense of justice isn't something we learned. Children as young as 2 years old show an innate understanding of fairness. Studies have shown that even babies respond with distress when they witness unfair treatment. Where does this come from? Why would evolution give us a sense of justice that the material world constantly violates? The answer that has satisfied human hearts for millennia is this: because there is a divine order that transcends what we can see. Because there is ultimate justice that makes sense of temporary injustice. Because there is a moral foundation to the universe that our souls recognize, even when our eyes can't see it. When you believe in divine justice, not as a threat, but as a promise that goodness ultimately prevails, it changes how you face suffering. It gives you strength to do right even when wrong seems to win. It allows you to forgive even when justice seems absent. Your soul craves this connection to ultimate justice because without it, the moral intuitions that make you human become unbearable contradictions. There's a moment that every human being has experienced. Maybe it was watching a sunset that took your breath away. Maybe it was holding your newborn child. Maybe it was standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon or listening to a piece of music that moved you to tears. In that moment, you felt something that psychologists call transcendent awe, a sense that you were touching something infinitely greater than yourself. And here's what's fascinating. These experiences don't just feel good, they fundamentally change us. Studies by Dr. Dacher Keltner at UC Berkeley have shown that experiences of awe make people more generous, more humble, more connected to others, and more grateful for life. But here's the deeper truth. These moments of transcendent awe are actually glimpses of the divine breaking through into ordinary experience. They're previews of a reality that's always there, waiting for us to notice. Ancient wisdom traditions understood this. They created practices, rituals, and sacred spaces specifically designed to cultivate these experiences of transcendent awe. They knew that regular connection with the sublime wasn't a luxury. It was essential for human flourishing. Modern life, with its focus on productivity, efficiency, and material achievement, often crowds out these experiences of transcendence. We become so focused on the urgent that we lose touch with the eternal. But your soul knows better. Your soul craves these moments of transcendent connection because they remind you of who you really are. Not just a biological machine struggling for survival, but a spiritual being capable of touching the infinite. When you cultivate a regular connection with the divine, these experiences of transcendent awe become not just random moments of beauty, but glimpses into your true home, the spiritual reality that is your deepest identity. Here's a truth that every human being knows in their heart. We've all done things we regret. We've all hurt people we love. We've all failed to live up to our own standards, let alone any divine standard. This creates what psychologists call moral injury, a deep wound to the soul that comes from acting against our own moral compass. And here's what's devastating about moral injury. No amount of human forgiveness can fully heal it. You can apologize to the people you've hurt, you can make amends, you can try to do better, but that voice inside that says, you're damaged goods, you're not worthy of love, you can never make up for what you've done, that voice doesn't quiet easily. This is why every culture in human history has developed concepts of divine forgiveness and redemption. Because the human soul knows something profound. We need a forgiveness that's greater than human forgiveness, a redemption that's deeper than human understanding. When you experience genuine divine forgiveness, not as a transaction, but as a transformation, it doesn't just remove guilt. It restores your fundamental sense of worth. It tells you that your worst mistakes don't define you, that your deepest failures aren't final, that you are redeemable. Dr. Fred Luskin's research at Stanford University on forgiveness shows that people who experience what they describe as divine forgiveness show greater psychological healing, improved relationships, and increased life satisfaction compared to those who rely only on human forgiveness. This isn't about avoiding consequences or excusing harmful behavior. This is about understanding that your soul needs a love that's greater than your mistakes, a grace that's deeper than your failures. Your soul craves divine forgiveness because it's the only thing that can truly heal the deepest wounds you carry, the wounds you've inflicted on yourself through your own choices. Here's a question that every thinking person eventually faces. What happens when I die? And more troubling, does anything I do really matter in the long run? If we're just biological machines that evolved by accident and will return to dust, then ultimately, nothing we do matters. The love you give, the beauty you create, the justice you fight for, all of it will be forgotten in the cosmic blink of an eye. This realization creates what existentialist philosophers call existential dread, the terrifying awareness that from a purely material perspective, human life is fundamentally meaningless. But here's what's remarkable. Humans consistently refuse to accept this conclusion. Even the most ardent materialists live as if their choices matter, as if love is real, as if justice is worth pursuing. Why? Because deep in our souls, we know that we are more than temporary arrangements of atoms. We know that we have eternal significance. This isn't wishful thinking. This is the deepest intuition of the human spirit. We are beings who naturally think in terms of eternity, who create art and music and literature that we hope will outlast our bodies, who form love bonds that feel stronger than death. When you understand yourself as a beloved creation of an eternal God, everything changes. Your acts of kindness become eternal investments. Your pursuit of truth becomes a sacred calling. Your love for others becomes a participation in divine love that transcends time. This doesn't diminish the importance of this life. It magnifies it. Every choice you make carries eternal weight because you are an eternal being created for eternal relationship with the divine. Your soul craves this understanding of eternal significance because without it, the deepest parts of who you are, your capacity for love, for sacrifice, for hope, become cosmic accidents with no ultimate meaning. Finally, we come to perhaps the most profound reason why every human soul craves the divine. Because life includes unavoidable suffering, and the human spirit requires a hope that's stronger than any suffering. Every person who has ever lived has faced moments when human comfort wasn't enough. The death of a child, a devastating diagnosis, the collapse of everything you've worked for, betrayal by someone you trusted completely. In these moments, human wisdom falls short, human comfort feels hollow, human promises feel empty. Because the reality is that some suffering in this life has no earthly solution, no human healing, no this world justice. But the human spirit refuses to despair. Even in the darkest moments, even when all earthly hope is gone, something in us continues to hope. Something in us continues to believe that suffering doesn't have the last word. This isn't denial or delusion. This is the deepest wisdom of the human soul, recognizing a truth that transcends temporary circumstances. That we are connected to a love that is stronger than death, a goodness that is more powerful than evil, a light that no darkness can extinguish. When you have this divine connection, suffering doesn't disappear, but it's transformed. It becomes meaningful rather than meaningless. It becomes redemptive rather than merely destructive. It becomes a place where you can experience the most profound divine comfort and strength. Your soul craves this ultimate hope because without it, the inevitable sufferings of human life become unbearable burdens rather than opportunities for a transcendent grace. So here we are, 7 profound reasons why every human soul, including yours, is designed for divine connection. You've seen the scientific evidence. You've heard the ancient wisdom. You've recognized the deep truths that resonate in your own heart. Now comes the question, what will you do with this understanding? You have a choice. You can continue to try to fill these soul-deep needs with temporary things, with achievement, with relationships, with distractions, with denial, and you might even succeed for a while. Or you can acknowledge what your soul has always known, that you were created for connection with the divine, that this longing in your heart isn't a weakness to be overcome, but a compass pointing you home. The beautiful truth is that the divine is not distant, not unreachable, not reserved for the especially holy or the perfectly behaved. The divine is as close as your next breath, as available as your next prayer, as real as your deepest longing for love. Your soul has been calling you to this connection your entire life. In every moment of wonder, every cry for justice, every longing for meaning, every reach for forgiveness, every hope that love is real, your soul has been reaching for the divine. And here's the most beautiful truth of all. The divine has been reaching back. The question isn't whether you're worthy of this connection. The question is whether you're ready to receive it. If you felt these longings stirring in your heart as you've watched this video, that's not a coincidence. That's your soul recognizing truth. That's the divine calling you home. Don't ignore that call. Don't let fear or doubt or past hurt keep you from the connection your soul was created for. Because when you finally say yes to that divine connection, when you finally come home to the love that's been waiting for you all along, you'll discover that everything you've been searching for has been searching for you too. Your journey toward the divine starts with a single step. Acknowledging that you need this connection, that you want this connection, that you're ready to discover the love that makes sense of everything else. Take that step today. Your soul will thank you for the rest of eternity. Remember, this isn't the end of your questions. It's the beginning of answers you've been seeking your whole life. This isn't the end of your journey. It's finally heading in the direction your heart has always known was home. And if this message has touched something deep inside you, I encourage you to share it with someone else who might be searching for these same truths. Because the divine love we've talked about tonight isn't meant to be hoarded. It's meant to be shared. Until the next time, may you find the peace that comes from knowing you are deeply loved, eternally valued, and forever connected to the source of all that is good and beautiful and true.